Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
How you doing, David? Sorry, I was distracted when it kicked off. The phone went off, the email went off, like the fire alarm in my office went off 5 minutes ago. It's
Oh, that's
just,
funny.
and I'm looking all over the place. That's coming on.
Man, I work on so many things, and then having phones and everything, I'm so distracted. And I'm really bad if somebody sends me an EV World email. It's like the last thing I check.
It's the
I,
last
I
one.
responded to somebody, and I realized they had sent me an email on Thursday, and I felt really bad because they want to come on the show, or they're trying to get somebody on the show. And I'm just like, wow, I really am that far behind on.
Isn't that fun when you build up like, why do I have 6 email addresses?
Right.
That people are trying to get through, and I have to open up 3 or 4 different things to get into them.
I do have some email addresses I absolutely do not check, and I think one of them's connected to LinkedIn. So people are using my LinkedIn one. They're probably wondering why I don't respond. Yeah. So, anyways, but the EV World one is generally pretty safe. It's just I don't get a lot of email on it, but also I don't check it as much as I should. But anyways, our first topic today. So my favorite, nuclear energy, SMRs, BWX Technologies leads the charge for data centers. So what is BWXT? What are they a leader in? Nuclear reactors for Navy ships. So they're one of the big ones. And almost everybody is expecting to have their models actually manufactured by BWXT. So BWXT is really going to be the manufacturer of everything. It's just people are going to have their models. They're going to contract with them. The BWXT is going to make it. Everybody I've looked at, if they've let me in their data room, I probably shouldn't be saying this. I guess I'm probably under NDA. But anyways, that's everybody's plan.
Just here's who's actually going to make. So are they on your stock ticker down there?
We don't have them on there, but it's BWXT as the stock.
I was going to say that would be somebody to keep an eye out on, because that's a good observation that everything's going to funnel through that point at some point.
Essentially, I've seen other people. It's like they wanted to make something in like outside of DC or reasonably in Virginia. Let's just say maybe an hour outside, maybe not in the city. In the true northern Virginia, but a little bit out. But I've seen other things, but I don't know. BWXT has built over 400 naval nuclear reactors. So they have a lot of experience. I mean, nobody else has this experience like they do. They're developing a BANR, they're calling it, small modular reactors, 75 megawatts each for data centers, mines, and campuses. Unlike startups like Oklo, that is zero revenue, or NuScale, BWX generated $3.1 billion last year in revenue, up 18% with a 10.3% profit margin, making it the safest bet in the SMR space, which is kind of interesting. You kind of, one of the things, you're looking at BWXT, a lot of the intrinsic value is already baked into the price.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of one of the challenges. If they have a 10.3% profit margin, then they're probably a little pricey, let's just say, because these companies, they sell
they're also a defense contractor, so earnings. I mean, they're charging Uncle Sam what Uncle Sam's going to pay or willing to pay on that, which is probably a lot. If they're one of the sole nuclear reactors or doing all the all the nuclear reactor development for that, which is something we never really talk about on here, but the idea of modular reactors out in different places, U.S. military has been doing it forever. I mean, our fleets are nuclear. They're on underwater, nuclear-powered submarines. I mean, so this idea that it's smaller sizes and is it safe and how do we deploy? There's pretty good track record out there.
Now,
we've already done.
Between the United States and the Soviet Union, there are 8 nuclear submarines that are resting on the bottom of the ocean. Okay.
They're done.
And they had certain fail safes in them that it would be dangerous to try to go and extract those reactors, but they're safe where they're at.
They're safe where they're at.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because I've looked at the science of the whole thing, and there's really good explanations on what that really is, because it's so cold where they're at.
At the bottom of the ocean, right?
Yeah, there's no, at the bottom of the ocean, that there's no issues with. So BWXT trades at $215. Interestingly, it's up 5% today, which I find kind of fascinating. But it trades, so it has a 10% net profit. It trades at 60 times earnings. That, to me, that always just seems nuts. Now, the thing is, we know it's going to keep, their business is going to grow. So people are already paying for that stock, that
understanding it's going to get.
Which is one of the reasons why, like, Tesla trades at, ridiculous numbers. Looking at the same thing. Oh, but Tesla trades at 362 times earnings. That seems even more nutty, right? Yeah, but it's like people are betting on the things these companies are building going down the line. I'm not saying that BWXT is this huge value because Tesla trades for 6 times the PE, but it's just interesting to kind of look at that kind of thing. BWXT pays a dividend of 27 cents every quarter on $215 stock. So you'd get about $1 a year.
$1 a year.
Yeah. Oh, hold on just a second.
Yeah, always going in. I think he's going in for the sneeze. Yeah, no, it's something I think about a lot. Having worked in the utility before, a lot of our nuclear technicians were former Navy. In that space, in the development of that space, and the continued of it. I think it's going to do the budding industry really well to have that workforce out there and people that know how to use these reactors and are familiar with them. I think it's a positive that's going to make this a little bit more seamless than it otherwise could have been.
It's interesting. So one of the things initially has been the idea of getting nuclear officers. Okay, so you have somebody who's the nuclear officer. When people actually refer to nuclear reactors, they call it the nuclear fleet, right? And anyways, they're not boats, but that's just the term that's used for nuclear reactors, is the nuclear fleet. But you have somebody who's just kind of basically in charge. And generally, the place where these people come from is the Navy. Because the Navy is the one that's really out there operating reactors, and it's kind of a big deal. I saw somebody on LinkedIn trying to criticize the SMR technology. It said you'll have too high of operational expense because it'll take like 500 people working on site for each reactor, for maintenance and security. And it's like, no, the number is actually closer to zero.
Yeah. I mean, these are the new, especially Gen 4. It's the set it and forget it. Monitor it remotely and send somebody out if there's a problem.
But it's interesting seeing people come in that think they know something on the topic, and they, it's just hard to comprehend. We all think we know everything, and then but are constantly learning. In the energy space, there's always something new, and it's really fascinating. But that's the idea: is you're eliminating most of the OpEx or operating expense of the reactors and limiting it to work done on the turbines or out heating the water, and then every 6 to 10 years of refueling the reactor.
Yeah, it's refueling. Well, it's like a wind turbine. I mean, it's anything. I mean, you want it to be maintenance. Everything needs maintenance. You got to lubricate. You got to tighten the nuts and bolts. You need all of those things. That's the idea. Do you remember those old infomercials with Ron Popeil? The set it, forget it. That's what it's, set it and forget it. Go turn it on and then let it run for 5 years and then come back and take care of it.
All right. So let's talk about the one company that's always been disappointing in the EV space, which is Toyota. Toyota has always been somebody who's kind of seemed like they're skipping the EV space. They're launching a vehicle called the C-HR Plus. I don't know how you're supposed
to. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue?
Yeah, the C-HR Plus. Maybe it's supposed to be the C-her Plus. I don't know. I'm just trying to say, it's kind of like the Busy Forks. I mean, where do they come up with some of these names? As its longest range EV with a range of 607 kilometers, which is 377 miles. That's a pretty long range vehicle. It's going on sale. They're doing customer deliveries in Europe, and it's a successor to the gas-powered model of the same car. It's an iconic crossover SUV featuring an all-electric powertrain, updated styling, and modern tech. It's a coupe SUV silhouette and Toyota's latest EV battery tech. It delivers 377 miles of range, the longest in its lineup. Let me see. Here's a picture. It's sharp looking.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it too. It looks a lot like a Tesla.
Yeah, well,
I think it's that flat back profile always gets me.
Yeah. I think it has something interesting in the architecture for the batteries. So it has two battery options, a 57 kilowatt and a 77, providing ranges of 458 kilometers or 607. That's for the front wheel drive. One's for the all wheel drive. Using a 150 kilowatt fast charger, it can recharge from 10 to 80% in 28 minutes. And even at temperatures as low as minus 10 Celsius, it'll take less than 30 minutes with battery preconditioning. It's among Toyota's most powerful vehicles in Europe, packing a combined 343 horsepower and 0 to 100 kilometers, which is 62 miles per hour, in 5.2, which that's not incredibly fast for an EV, but it is for a Toyota.
It is for a Toyota. I mean, it'll do what you need to do.
Yeah, but once again, not available for the U.S. market.
No, that's everything I see. Europe,
it's
being launched in Europe. Yeah.
I mean, I look at this like that's pretty sharp looking, I think.
Yeah, that's a nice looking car. I like it.
I've noticed a lot of these really look like they're stealing looks from like a Urus, and I know if you've ever seen a Urus, it really. I think it's hard in the SUV space to look distinctive, and so they all kind of look the same, but I've noticed more and more vehicles seeming like they have kind of more like this front end style, very, very similar to the Lamborghini Urus. It's 6 inches shorter than a Busy Forks. It offers about the same interior space with generous leg room and rear passenger headroom. Oh, and it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I mean, some of the other car companies have been dropping that.
I heard that. Maybe we talked about it last week.
Yeah, we did.
I was talking with somebody that they were taking that. Why would you make things less convenient? But apparently the new model of the Busy Forks people like. We were car shopping a couple of weeks ago and talking to the Toyota people, and they said the new ones that they got in, they've been driving them and really like them. The
Busy Forks.
Yeah, the new models.
Owen that's in the chat a lot of times. He has a Subaru Solterra, which is the same vehicle, and he really likes it.
Yeah.
Let's see. So it's priced out at about 45,000, including the VAT, in Germany, with leases available at 341 a month. That seems like it'd be pretty competitive.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll report on these. We are EV World, not EV US. But my next one is Xiaomi, which got banned from selling cell phone. Oh no, it was Hawaii that got banned from selling cell phones in the US. But Xiaomi doesn't sell cell phones in the United States, anyways.
I don't think.
But Xiaomi is a big cell phone manufacturer. And they're the ones who got into making electric vehicles a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. They've had astounding results. They've updated the SU7, and they had the updated version had 15,000 orders in 34 minutes.
Whoa.
It starts at 33,400 and goes up to 44,000 for the top trim. This is, I don't know what you try to compare it to, but Xiaomi's cars have a distinct Porsche knockoff look.
Yeah.
And, it was Xiaomi was the one that the CEO of Ford, Farley,
was scared of, or did he take their car?
Brought one back to the U.S.
and took it apart?
Well, he was driving it around. He really liked it.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was Tesla. Maybe Tesla took a bunch of stuff apart.
Yeah. Oh, they all do that. They all buy cars and tear them apart, trying to see what they can figure out. But it's kind of nuts to see how nice of a car you can.
It is the I would say when I was in Asia last fall, that's what they were excited about in Malaysia, that Xiaomi was starting to make its way over there. So much so they had, like, in shopping malls. Shopping malls are still a big thing over there. Big Xiaomi displays with cars in there, and people seemed really excited about it. At least the people I was talking to in the EV space, of like that's the car they would potentially get.
Let's see here. I want to show something else. You know, it's funny. They still do the malls over there. We dropped malls over here because of crime.
Yeah. Oh boy, I don't know how many products a single mall needs, but there's multiples in some of those malls over there.
Yeah.
It's a nice car. That's sharp.
Yeah, they're nice looking. Yeah, it's just for $33,400. It just seems ridiculous that we can't produce something like that in the United States.
Anything close?
We can't compete with that.
No.
Yeah, and people always try to say, "Oh, it's junk." It's like, I haven't heard anybody saying it's junk.
It's not.
Yeah. I mean, it's still not Porsche standards.
No.
Okay. But I'm just saying, for a basic car.
Well, no, like I'm a kid of the 80s, and that was the joke of, the made in China sticker. It was just an absolute, like, it's going to fall apart. It was cheap, poorly produced. And that's one of the things I really try to advocate anymore with EVs, of Chinese EVs aren't that anymore. They're actually a really nice product, and it seem to be holding up pretty well too.
Yeah, it's just shocking that they can produce in the price range that they're talking about. I mean, you don't really need a lot of incentives at those kind of prices.
No. Well, no, and a car that looks like that,
yeah,
looks nice, looks really nice.
Which kind of goes back to when I first started doing EV world. I was telling Bill, I can tell Tesla every EV.
It's a jet ski car.
Try to make it look futuristic, or
yeah,
they just all looked awful. And it's like,
I said the same line to everybody too. Like, I want an EV that looks like a car, and it just happens to be an EV. I don't. It doesn't need to stand, just a car that happens to be powered by electricity.
Yeah, and it also doesn't need to look like
bubbly.
The original Nissan Leafs weren't that great looking. The initial. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Bolt. I mean, Bill owns a Bolt. I'm not really a fan of.
I'm a fan of those. I don't like the way Prius looks personally. Going a step back, but
the new ones look better.
Do they? I guess I haven't paid attention, but when they first came out,
the 25 and 26 ones, had a different body style.
It's one of those. It just felt like, can we make the most like neutral, vanilla looking vehicle we can? Okay, they're Prius. Yeah, it's very neutral.
Toyota and Honda have a habit of taking a vehicle, and I'm thinking more like in terms of SUVs, like the Highlander or the CRV or the RAV4. And what they do is every few years when they update them, they make them like 2 inches longer.
They get bigger.
They keep it. So every 3-4 years, they grow like a couple inches larger than the old version. So when somebody's looking at trading one in, they'll go back and they'll get another one because it's better than the old ones. And so I think that's what's happened with the Prius, is they simply have made it better, and it's probably a little bigger, even though it probably still is just as fuel efficient.
Yeah.
It's that's the way the Japanese automakers.
That's the way it's been.
At least Toyota and Honda.
Yeah,
I can't say that about the other companies, but Toyota and Honda definitely.
But no, you can go back and look, and what our mid-size SUVs are the size of what their large SUVs were 15 years ago. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, the RAV4 used to be a tiny.
It was a little
now
car.
more of a mid-size, and the Highlander was a mid-size. Now it's the same size as the 4Runner or the Ford Explorer. You know, and they just keep doing that. All right, man, more Chinese news. Chinese EV makers XPENG, Li Auto, GAC, Changan, Geely, and BYD are aggressively moving into humanoid robotics using shared EV components, sensors, motors, and AI. If it's good enough for Elon, they're going to do it too. They're all going to be copycats. Companies see robotics as the next frontier of embodied intelligence, leveraging their manufacturing scale and supply chains. I was talking about something, you know, I think Facebook was like the 14th social media network or something like that released. Okay, so it wasn't like it was a completely brand new idea. They just came up with a better.
They did it better,
right? And obviously, Tesla is not the first electric vehicle manufacturer. They might have been in the United States. They might have been one of the first EV makers, but we've certainly had lots of people who tried and failed. Right? They've certainly been the first one that's been successful in the United States. But you have all these other EV companies overseas now. And the thing is, Musk has been leading in some ideas. Okay. So like the skateboard or whatever, the things, all those things to improve processes that other car manufacturers weren't doing. The Chinese have all adopted that. Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch this, but as Tesla moves more and more into robotics, you see all these other people kind of doing the same thing. If Elon's doing it, there must be something to it. Definitely identifies trends.
I'm trying to think of like why that's an appealing transition. I understand like Musk and Tesla and SpaceX and very future focused. Like I get that, but from the other companies, I mean, it must just be a similar platform. You have so many sensors, you have so many things being inputted and processing power, moving mechanical actuator. Maybe it just translates pretty well. Like the software just kind of goes in the hardware.
So I'm working on a manufacturing hub in Florida, and what we want to do is have most of the work done by robots. Okay, so I can kind of see this here. So these Chinese all the auto manufacturers use a lot of robots now.
Yeah.
So I think to a certain degree, they're trying to own the supply chain of the robots.
Interesting.
This is my theory.
Yeah.
And if I were them, I'd be trying to own that supply chain. And then they're making the humanoid robots because it's just a stretch from, the one arm that grabs, moves, and, they're making it go farther, but maybe the idea is this is part of their manufacturing process down the road is they're looking at this improves their manufacturing. And if they own that supply chain, then maybe, it makes
it's a diminishing cycle. I mean, you just keep improving costs and improving efficiency.
Yeah. So that's a big part of it. It's just like when you're dealing with publicly traded home builders, some of them own parts of the supply chain, right? And so if they're able to really save money on lumber, for instance, it can significantly improve their profit margins, even though it might be a separate division, but then that lumber company is making profit on the home building, and they own that under the same roof. And so that's one of the things that Tesla has done really well at is controlling the supply chain.
The supply chain, they've been fantastic. Well, and it's just even their part standardization and everything they've done. I mean, China took it to the nth degree in manufacturing, because they have no labor costs. But I mean, it's interesting.
All right, we're going to move from China to Japan. Honda cancels 3 U.S.-made EVs amid policy uncertainty. Honda's cancellation reflects the broader U.S. EV production pullback as the Trump administration policy shifts slow market growth. $22 billion in EV and battery investments were canceled in 25 alone, with automakers facing losses, layoffs, and scrap projects. Uncertainty over incentives and demand clouds the future of domestic EV manufacturing, potentially ceding leadership to China. Well, I don't know about potentially ceding leadership. We've already ceded leadership to China. I mean, yeah, it's not potential.
It's not potential anymore.
Yeah. Forget potential. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really envision a world in 10 years where the U.S. automakers only make our trucks. I mean,
yeah, still own that. I mean, absolutely still own that market, but
I just can't imagine that some of these.
I think I took this from you, but I always use the phrase. I mean, the major leagues of electric vehicles are in China, like US.
Actually, Elon said that.
Is that him? Okay,
it's Elon. Then
that's an Elon.
I can't take credit for that one. That's an Elon.
All right. Well, I'll chase it back up there. Maybe I'll stop saying it then, since it's.
I appreciate your thought that it was an original for me.
No, it encapsulates it so well. It's just one of those. It's changed. Like we're not the leaders in that space anymore.
No, and it's funny. We had somebody yesterday. EVs. I heard EVs are dead. Oh, there's Owen. Yeah, donut. Specialized technology about to make that Finland. It's a finished product. Let's see. Oh, so we have an article from EV World. This is one of Bill's articles. If I can get it to load. Well, it doesn't want to load. Energy expert Jason Bordoff explains why clean energy is scaling fast, but fossil fuel demand remains stubborn due to geopolitical shocks. Governments want clean, cheap, and secure energy simultaneously, politically and physically difficult to deliver all three. You know, the construction space, I have this running joke. You can have quality, speed, or price. You can choose, you can almost for certain get at least one. Yeah. Best case you can get, you cannot get all three.
In project management, it's called the iron triangle. It's the iron rule of project management.
Like you can get two.
You can get two, but you can't. Or it's basically like if you adjust one, the other two are going to adjust.
Right.
If you reduce the cost, it's going to take more time, or it's going to be lower quality. I mean, that's it. It's a triple constraint, iron triangle.
The iron triangle. I like that. But you know, in energy, yeah, 2 out of 3 isn't bad, Owen. But the truth is, you usually get one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you usually either get price, quality, or speed. Not not all of them. And if you get speed, you generally don't get price or quality. Yeah. Speed's probably the hardest one of the 3 to deliver. But forget any of the 3. Well, that happens sometimes. Those are the projects gone wrong. We don't get any of them. Yeah. But I'm just saying. But in the energy space, you know, people want clean, cheap, and secure. And you know, as a country, if I'm a country's leader, I want energy independence. And especially if I'm in a developing nation, solar and wind check a lot of boxes for people that have never had
that
electricity. Okay. Yep. So, you know, they're not looking for 24/7 electricity.
No, that expectation is not there.
Something, and it can't cost 35 cents a kilowatt when the people make $1 a day. Right. So they need a way to produce energy for 5 to 7 cents a kilowatt and provide it into manufacturing that then is able to create jobs, brings up standard of living, and do these things. And, you know, it does that. But on the flip side, coal is cheap. And if you're in a place that has coal, I hate seeing us tell African countries they can't use coal because it's bad. Coal bad. Yeah. And it's just sort of aggravating to see that. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that coal is bad. But is it worse having people that are basically living in the Stone Age?
It's for every utilities around here too. If you look at their mission statements, it was, we want to provide affordable, reliable power. Great. There's your two. And now in the past decade, you've added that third one in there: affordable, reliable, environmentally sensitive, green power, whatever you want to call in there. And it's made it real tough out there to get that in there.
Well, when you're talking about your iron triangle, environmentally friendly isn't one of the three pillars.
No.
And that's one of the challenges is how do you make environmentally friendly fit into the three? Because I talk about this all the time. It's like, face it, you've got to make the economics work. Nobody cares.
That's the iron law, right? Of the work. If it doesn't pay out, if the economics don't work, it's not going to work. People aren't going to do it.
Yeah. It's just, why would I just, a lot of stuff is charity, right? But it doesn't make sense if the charity is too expensive for people to maintain it.
Yeah.
And so it gets to be a real challenge to make that play. Let me see. So I don't know about this piece, but Trump supposedly is paying France's company Total Energies $1 billion to kill U.S. offshore wind. The Trump administration is reimbursing Total Energies nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to abandon 4+ gigawatts of offshore wind leases. In exchange, Total Energies invests in LNG and oil first, then collects repayments. Critics calling it $1 billion bribe. I'm just not a fan of this. I don't know. I mean, this hatred for wind drives me crazy. Making things disposable on purpose is a huge chink in the iron triangle too. Yeah. But I hate seeing this because some of I swear, just because the left likes solar and wind, the right just thinks they've got to be a scam. And that isn't the case. We're just talking energy here. It's not political. It doesn't care about your agenda.
And especially offshore, the numbers on those and the output, it's a good deal. It seems like the right direction, but
it is more expensive. Offshore wind is more expensive than onshore wind. So I have sometimes kind of wondered what the reasoning is for wanting to do that, other than putting it somewhere else.
I think it's space. I think it's got a good capacity factor. Which is part of it, because it's out there. You can get that higher, little bit of extra height, little bit of wind coming off of it. So I know that's a desirable piece. And the other piece where they're putting those, it's next to the population centers. So it's one of those, like, you can put them closer to the people on the East Coast where you have more space. You don't have the wide open spaces like you do here in the Midwest for all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm disappointed in that, but that's just the way it goes. I'm disappointed a lot. Chinese mining firms are caught between Beijing's export restrictions and African beneficiation policies demanding local processing. It's complicating the cobalt lithium extraction critical to global EV supply chains. What's interesting? Cobalt is only necessary in lithium ion batteries, which you use in your cell phones, and they're most
batteries, most portable electronics.
Yeah, but
it's good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm distracted by that. It's kind of funny, but cobalt is not used in LFP batteries. It's not used in graphene or sodium ion batteries. There's all these types of battery technologies that are now starting to become more popular. I wouldn't say they're mainstream yet. LFP has probably got the biggest foothold, right? The challenge with LFP is, while it can't catch on fire like a lithium ion battery, it is a little less energy dense. So that's the only real difference. But it also doesn't require cobalt. And there's probably a couple of other minerals it doesn't need.
I don't know
that
history.
That's advantageous for. Well, we have certainly had a lively chat today. That's all we got for today, Mike. So
Cool.
I'll be back with Bill on Friday, and Mike and I will be back next week. Otherwise, folks, have a great day, and thanks so much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, the donut battery is special. All right. See you guys.